Now let's talk about the commerce side of this business. So you're new to this industry, you've bought some animals, or you've got some animals on the property when you fenced it, and now you're looking to make a little bit of money. So the two ways that I'm familiar with is obviously running some sort of hunting operation, and the second one is selling the animals in auctions as you would do with kind of traditional livestock. Am I missing anything?
No,
Okay.
that's primarily the industry, and when we first started, my goal was to have a hunting operation, and we had hunters out here, and it was every weekend. It was a very demanding thing having people on the ranch, the liability of having people on the ranch. And after a few years, we decided that was not our forte anymore, and we decided that we were going to limit our hunting to our family and nothing commercial, but we were going to breed strictly to sell to other ranches as breeding stock. One of the things that people run into, and I think some of the pitfalls, if we want to talk about that
Sure.
a minute, is that they think that they're going to come out, put up a high fence, buy a couple of animals, and they're going to start doing something immediately. My suggestion is to get all your business plan made.
How about a business plan, right?
And we'll talk.
Yes,
we
sir.
do business plans
Right.
for other people, and we had a business plan, and a business plan is nothing more than a guideline that you have and a goal that you want to achieve, in the first year, the second, fifth year, and I would say that you got to be prepared to make absolutely no money your first 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
If you don't have the outlay of capital and everything to be able to do that, then you're getting into the wrong business.
Yeah, and it's almost like any startup, right? Not every startup you just immediately start cash flowing. So it taken a few years to get going. What are the reasons why? Is it?
Well, first off, when I built when we first high fenced 20 years ago, we were paying right at $3.50 to $5 a foot.
Okay.
To put this, just for your labor on the fencing. That didn't include your water gaps, didn't include your gates, any of that. Now that was $3 to $5 a foot. Now you put that on a mile, 5,280 feet.
It'll add up.
That was, even those days, was over almost $30,000. Sure. Today, it is probably quadrupled. And you get into some of these hill country ranches where this mountainous area that you see around us out here, the price of poker goes up considerably. I mean, people are getting anywhere from $15, $20, and sometimes $30 a foot.
A foot.
To build fences over these hills.
So infrastructure cost, especially if you don't have it.
Infrastructure is terrible. Yeah. And like I said, over 20 years, I've built the infrastructure that I have. We used to be in the whitetail breeding business, so I still have all my deer pens and my handling facilities for the whitetail, but I'm no longer in the whitetail business. I saw the writing on the wall with that and the regulations that were under Parks and Wildlife, and I got out of the whitetail business. So now I'm using those pens for other things. And the barn, the handling facilities are still good. I mean, we use those to operate on. That is expensive. I mean, to build everything you see out here is literally, I'd like to have the money back that I spent, setting the infrastructure of this ranch up. Right. And hopefully my kids and my grandkids will carry on this and keep the ranch. The upkeep on it is expensive as well. Yep. And so it's just cost a lot.
And so some ways that people, let's get back to the commerce side. So you can run a hunting operation or some flavor of hunting operation, and this is where you probably need some lodging. So sometimes the ranches, of course, have it. Sometimes you have to put up the money for that. You got to have chefs and meals and drinks and people helping you out. Then you've got to have this sort of the deer stands or the ways to get out in the field to take these animals. And so I think kind of set that aside. How about when you're going to go the live sell or you're going to go the auction route with your hoof stock? How do you move these deer? How do you work these deer?
When we move these animals, if say for example we're selling to other ranchers, and that's called private treaty, where we're not going through a public auction.
Okay.
We sometimes, like I mentioned with the Gemsbach and even our scimitar horns, we find it easier to chemical immobilize them, to tranquilize them with a drug that we get from our veterinarian.
Yeah.
Now, like the Axis and black buck, some of our bigger bucks, we will dart those as well and chemical immobilize them. Does and younger bucks and things like that, we run them in, we catch them in our catch pen, and then we can run them into the barn and live load them onto the trailer.
Okay.
So that's how we move that. Now, when I mentioned chemical immobilization,
Yeah, we're talking about going to
well,
a veterinarian.
you're going to have that. These are Schedule 3 drugs that you're using. You have to have a veterinarian prescribe those. And you're not just going to one day buy some animals and go to your vet, get a dart gun and go to your vet and get a prescription for those drugs. He's not going to write you a prescription. You have to develop that rapport with that vet. He needs to come out and do a ranch inspection, which I've had several times. Our vet comes out every so often, and he looks at the herd. He knows how the numbers I have, and so he knows that if I'm asking for a drug kit, that will take care of the animals I have. If I were to all of a sudden start asking for 10 drug kits, that's gonna raise a suspicion and a red flag to him, and he's probably not gonna write me that prescription until he finds out why I need
Why
those.
you need to, yeah.
And here's the misnomer, and I want to dwell just a little bit on the drugs, is that when you do get a prescription for those drugs, you can't those drugs have to be prescribed to you, to the ranch, and whether you're letting somebody else dart your animals,
Yeah.
or whether you're doing it yourself, they have to be in your name, the ranch name, and the species you're darting.
Okay.
Or immobilizing.
This is very important, right?
It's extremely important, or you're committing a felony
Oh.
if you don't. In other words, if you hire a third party to come out, dart your animals for you, they use their drugs and all that, that is an
That's a
absolute
problem.
no-no, and it's a criminal offense. So know your drug laws, talk to somebody that can help you through that. And my suggestion when people come in and ask me about what should I do as far as buying a dart gun, I'll tell them don't. No.
Okay.
Don't buy that dart gun until you have had an opportunity to work with some people that know what they're doing and are doing it legally. And so that'd be my suggestion, is don't get into that end of it until you're ready to capture, and then we've got several, in just in this local area here, there's several traders and trappers. that are very legitimate. They know how to do it and they know the laws, and they're very careful with your animals. So I would suggest, that would be my suggestion first off, is hire the services of a good trapper.
Okay, so.
Or use your veterinarian to do that.
Or use your veterinarian.
Yeah.
Okay, and then some of the stuff that we may see on social media where the guys are in the helicopters and they're hanging out and they're shooting the net guns. I know a lot of that is, West Texas and
they do that a lot right here now.
Some of the bigger ranches.
On the bigger ranches, it's great. On these small well, like for example, there's no way in this, in my scimitar horn pen, which is about 10 acres, there's no way that I'd let them come in with a helicopter and you'd kill everything in here, running them into the fence.
Yeah.
But that is a very great way to catch a lot of animals in a short amount of time.
Okay.
And if you've got experienced operators and trappers, I can't say enough about how the ability of that, especially in these mountainous areas and real rugged terrain. That is probably the only way you're going to catch some of those animals.
We've talked about the hunting. We've talked about the capture. Now you're potentially entering your animals into an auction.
If you're going to go the public auction route, you do the same. Basically, now the trend today is not. There's still a few what I call live auctions where the animal is actually there and run through a ring like you would.
That's not as popular anymore, though.
It's not as popular anymore. The video auctions are really becoming popular, and also online bidding is extremely popular. And you do the videos through either video or through photography, photos of the animal that you're purchasing. And then normally under the terms and conditions, most of those auctions have a time limit that well, for example, the EWA was 60 days
60
to
days.
deliver that animal. Other than that, I like private treaty auctions myself.
Okay.
You're going to pay a commission on any public auction,
Sure.
but I recommend a public auction to our new members and our new people that are coming into the industry. And the reason I recommend that is because they may not have the clientele.
Right.
And so that you put your animals out there, people, after you've done that they get to know who you are, they get to know the quality of animal that you have, and so then you can turn to private treaty, and they'll be calling you for private treaty sales, and you're not paying a commission to the auction company. But either way, that's the two ways of selling your animals.
Sure.
Is either private treaty or public auction.
Okay.